This is 13 Minutes. I'm Elliot Reeves. My guest today is Antony Astbury. Antony, it's brilliant to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been a while.
It's been a very long while, actually. Yeah, we were just reminiscing before we started. Yeah, it's been a very long time. Sorry,
I was going to say, I reckon it's maybe 4 years, more than that.
I think it has been. Yeah, no, I think that's almost spot on. Yeah. We'll maybe get to how we met eventually. In the beginning, we'll start with the basics. Who is Antony Astbury? What does he do? What's he about?
Good question to start with. So I'm the CEO of the Whole Man Academy, which is a let's call it an initiative which was started in 2018, primarily in London at the time, to help guys and encourage guys to get together to talk. And that has since snowballed to the fact that now we have a podcast, as a lot of people do, and e-letter. We're working on online courses, and it's encouraging guys to kind of bring all segments of their life up a level if they want to help them do life better.
You've had some amazing guests and affiliates, the likes of David Gandy and
no, you're right. I mean,
he calls himself Judge Rinder, but
apparently
I'm trying to think what his name is.
He has got a first name which is Rob.
Robert.
That's right, yeah. Rob. But yeah, I mean, we've had, stretching from our podcast through to our events, we've had Leon McKenzie, who was the footballer boxer. David Gandy spoke to our biggest event, which was at Savile Row, when we spoke at Geese and Hawks in front of about 65 guys, all about strength through style. And yeah, we've had guys from Strictly Come Dancing and the Formula One and journalism and various types of media and sport and all these different sectors, fashion, coming to our events, which has been great. And yeah, I mean, we announced earlier this year that actually David Gandy is now our official global ambassador, which I always say helps because it gets bums on seats and it makes people pay a bit more attention to you. Definitely.
So what was your path into that then?
I mean, I'd worked for 20 years in the city. I'll try and give you a potted history, and that is it. And nigh on 20 years, and probably a few years before that, I started to feel slightly unfulfilled in what I was doing. The old kind of saying of is this all there is? And it was around that time I, let's say, became enlightened through personal development. So I went on pretty much all the Tony Robbins courses around the world, which finished in Miami, which was brilliant. And that got me into podcasts. I always say podcasts saved my life, because probably if I hadn't have listened to those, I'd have not had the courage to leave what I was doing. And I then went on various courses about personal development, about life coaching, about mindset for guys, or mindset generally, but primarily for guys. That led me on to working as a coach, and then with Matthew Shaw, who was a friend of mine. We started the Whole Man Academy over a slightly drunken lunch at Soho House.
Nice. Who have been some of your biggest influences in the podcasting realm?
Good question. I mean, there's so many good ones. I found it easier to just pick a couple and stick with them. So actually, the first one was a guy I listened to called Andy Murphy, who his podcast is called Mindset by Design, and he was one of the first ones I listened to. A guy called James Swanwick, who is based out in the States, though he's Australian. And I
know James. Yeah, I've seen Peter Sage on James's podcast.
Yes. Okay. Good example. So I don't pretend James and I know each other, but I've conversed with him a couple of times on email. He's a cool dude. And London Real was one of the first ones that I started listening to as well when I'd be going into work, and that introduced me to people like Peter Sage. So it's about finding, I think, a couple that you like and going deep on those, as opposed to a scattergun approach.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, certainly we know each other through London Real. It was Brian's movement that brought us together originally. So it's very cool. Funny how the world works.
Yeah, we've come full circle. Now we've both got our own podcasts.
That's it. So tell me a bit about how you've been kind of coping and managing yourself throughout what's been happening over the last few months.
Sure. I mean, I know everybody's situation is different, and I've spoke about this a lot on different podcasts. I've literally got off another one. We did one last night for Home House, and today we were doing a kind of a warm up for one of the really big companies in London next week, and it was all about about how it's been affecting us in lockdown. I've been very lucky that I moved out of London, so we've got a lot of garden space, which I think is priceless at the moment,
Hmm.
and a partner and two little boys, which has driven me slightly nuts trying to work from home with them in the background. But it's been great because you've got company, and we always say some people are maybe living on their own, and if they're working from home and not going out, it's a very solitary kind of environment. Whereas for some of us, we've got kids running around, and it's actually a crazy one. So often, some of us could do with a bit of what the other one have got.
Hmm.
But
Exactly.
I've been fine. I've had my moments, as probably all of us have. But I'm lucky. I have a good grasp of thinking positively and looking at what you can achieve and what's going well. And I've been very busy. I've been busier during lockdown than beforehand, so I don't have a lot of time to kind of get bored. That'd be a
Y-
good problem to have at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Just taking a high level view, what are your thoughts on everything that's happening just now in the world?
There's so much to go through, but I think we at the moment we're kind of lurching from one news item to another, and it's interesting in the last week that COVID has kind of been forgotten about because the other developments in the States which have spread over here. I would say for most people it's important to my saying is stay curious, question everything, and make up your own mind. Probably the most important thing is whatever you see on TV or whatever you're reading is take it with a pinch of salt.
Mm.
And I think one of the best things you could do is actually not watch much of the news.
Yeah, yeah. I've had this discussion with many, many people, and it seems to be unanimous that that's the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, you understand it. The news is there to, unfortunately, generally show you all the dramatic stuff that's going on that day, and that's fair enough. And it's up to you whether you watch it or not. So can't necessarily blame them for it. I'm not sure if it was happy news all day whether people would bother to tune in. But their job is to find the biggest, scariest thing that's happened that day and show it to you in full colour.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that if you can stay in touch with what you need to stay in touch with and leave the rest of it alone, that's for me a good recipe for a slightly calmer mindset.
Well put. Very well put. So, how do you think the world might start to change as a result of what's happening just now with the coronavirus situation?
Certainly, one of the big things I think a lot of people are realizing that they don't need to work in the office,
Hmm.
and that has good and bad points to it. Good because you don't need to commute and you haven't got to do the getting to work and maybe wasting time. But actually, some people like it, and there's blurred lines between work and your home life. I've coached people who are struggling in that respect because they've got work stuff here, and then you've got, as you say, you've got kids, and you don't have that barrier between the two. So that's certainly something I think is going to be affected. I wouldn't be surprised if in years to come, some of the high rise office buildings aren't have been mothballed or used for something else,
Hmm.
because a lot of companies will think, hey, if we don't have to have all these people together, then you can employ people from around the world as well,
Yeah.
and then the costs go down. So that could be interesting. There's could be a
Hmm.
big a big thing for the homeless if they're all living in Canary Wharf.
Yeah. Yeah. In what way would you like to see the world change?
Wow. I think one of the big things, yeah, would go back to the media and what we get shown and what we're consuming. I think that's certainly something for a longer call than a 13 minutes. But that's one of the big things, and it's important that everybody's allowed to consume, I think, what they want and make up their own mind. It's very dangerous if you start getting told what you can and can't watch, because then
Hmm.
who gets to decide what you can and can't watch and what's their narrative?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I think a lot of people, thankfully, you've still got various forms of platforms that you can consume things on. But it is always worrying when things start getting deleted without question, because that stops you questioning it. And we all know that what we're being told isn't always what we should be being told.
Yeah. Exactly. What advice or insight would you give to anybody that was struggling right now?
First, it depends on the level of it. I mean, if you're, if we talk about someone that is suicidal or really, really struggling in that respect, then the obvious ones is to go to the helplines, and there's so many different great organisations that can help with that. If it's people who have found issues with lockdown, it's firstly establish what the issues are and find someone that can help you with it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, the financial side of it is going to be a huge hit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And my big worry is for a lot of, I mean, with the Whole Man Academy, a lot of guys, it's going to be lacking purpose if people are losing their jobs or losing their businesses. It is a very tough situation if you are, linking your self-worth to your employment or your salary, or your title. That's something that can be, probably people won't understand how important that is until you're in that situation. And I'm very excited that the football is back on soon, because so many people, forgetting that it's football, any kind of sport, it's an outlet for people to let some steam off, and join that community again, which maybe they lost.
Yeah. I'm a huge UFC fan, or mixed martial arts. So that's been amazing being able to still watch the events going on,
Yeah. Now it gives you something, and we always say with football, guys usually base their, not all guys, but guys that are interested in football base
Mm-hmm.
their weekends around it. They talk about it at work. They celebrate their wins. They moan about their defeats, and it can be all consuming. But having that taken away from you, is another one of those things that I think has, will have affected guys. And having that thankfully put back in place very soon, whether there's a crowds or not, at least it's something. It's moving in the right direction.
Yep. Yep. I'll just quick shout out to Lucina. She's commented, "Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in, Lucina. I hope you're doing well." And finally, my friend, where can people find you?
Good question. We make it easy because no one had Whole Man Academy at all. So on social media, we are at Whole Man Academy, and our website is www.wholemanacademy.com. So you can reach us through all the various channels, or listen to our podcast, which unsurprisingly is the Whole Man Academy podcast.
Great stuff. Well, my friends, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've done very well time-wise here, actually. Normally, I'm guilty of running over, but I think we've nailed it. So, just want to say a huge thank you for coming on,
Pleasure.
and for sharing your wisdom and your insights. It's been great catching up.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Cheers, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.